Imagine preparing for battle, your heart racing, adrenaline pumping, and then, in the stillness of the forest, you consume a small mushroom. What seems like an unlikely ritual may have been exactly what some Viking warriors did before heading into battle. But why mushrooms? And were they really used to prepare for the fiercest moments of a Viking's life? Today, we explore how the Vikings use mushrooms, not just for battle, but in their daily lives, their rituals, and their belief systems. The Vikings were warriors, explorers, and seafarers. But they were also incredibly attuned to nature. The dense, misty forests of Scandinavia were home to countless plants, herbs, and fungi, many of which had medicinal or spiritual uses. Among these, psilocybin mushrooms, known for their psychoactive properties, were discovered and used by some Viking tribes. But how did the Vikings discover that these mushrooms could alter their perception, heighten their senses, or perhaps connect them to the gods? It's likely that, just like other ancient cultures, the Vikings foraged for mushrooms as part of their everyday life, and they quickly noticed the strange effects of consuming certain types. Psilocybin mushrooms contain the compound psilocybin, which when consumed is converted into psilocin, the substance responsible for their hallucinogenic effects. This natural compound was likely discovered through trial and error. It's possible the Vikings, aware of their environment's rich biodiversity, began to notice that some mushrooms had a profound effect on their mind, perception, and spirit. How did they know they were safe? Viking knowledge of the natural world was passed down through generations. Likely, only those who had been trained or had experience with the fungi would partake in them. The Vikings were also deeply connected to their spiritual beliefs, and it's possible they considered mushrooms as a means of connecting with higher realms, whether it was to commune with the gods or receive visions of future events. But what mushrooms exactly did the Vikings use? Were they picky about which ones they consumed? And how did they know these wild fungi were safe? Several species of mushrooms are believed to have been used by the Vikings, but the most notable is the psilocybe semilanceata, or the liberty cap mushroom. These mushrooms are small, with a distinctive bell-shaped cap, and are found in the moist fields and grassy areas of northern Europe. They are rich in psilocybin, and likely these were the type of mushrooms used by Viking warriors. But did they use other types of mushrooms? Yes, the Vikings were keen foragers and would likely have used other species of wild mushrooms, such as Amanita muscaria, the fly agaric, which is also hallucinogenic. This mushroom is easily recognizable by its red cap with white spots, and it has a long history of being used in shamanistic rituals. The effects of Amanita muscaria are different from psilocybin mushrooms, where psilocybin causes visual and emotional changes. Amanita muscaria can lead to a sense of altered reality, often with a sense of euphoria or delirium. Where did they find them? The Vikings had access to a wide range of ecosystems, from dense forests to meadows, where psilocybin mushrooms would naturally grow. These mushrooms thrive in the damp, cool climates of northern Europe, especially in grassy fields after rain. They didn't need to cultivate the mushrooms, as they grew abundantly in their natural environment. But how did they know these mushrooms were safe? It's likely that the Vikings were guided by trial and error, passed down knowledge, and possibly even shamanic traditions that helped them identify the beneficial fungi from those that could cause harm. Now, the most fascinating aspect of the Vikings' use of mushrooms wasn't just their effects, but how they integrated these mushrooms into their rituals. In Viking society, rituals were often tied to their spiritual beliefs. They believed that certain mushrooms could open their minds to the spiritual world or connect them to the gods. It's likely that warriors used these mushrooms before battle to achieve a heightened state of awareness, entering the battle with a sense of fearlessness and clarity. But the mushrooms didn't just help warriors get into a trance. They likely enhanced their physical senses as well. It's believed that psilocybin could sharpen vision and increase the ability to focus on minute details. This might explain why Viking warriors were able to anticipate their enemies' movements with uncanny precision. Acute vision and enhanced perception. One of the most remarkable effects of psilocybin mushrooms is their ability to enhance sensory perception. Warriors who consumed them could have experienced an acute sense of vision, perceiving their surroundings in heightened detail. The normally sharp Viking warrior, already trained for combat, could have gained a new level of awareness, being able to track rapid movements and anticipate attacks almost instinctively. It's not just that they saw more, but their brain processed information faster. The heightened sense of vision could have helped Vikings anticipate enemy movements with remarkable speed. Fighters could predict an opponent's next strike, dodge more effectively, or even react to the smallest change in the environment that others might miss. In a time when split-second decisions could mean life or death, this quickened reaction time and enhanced reflexes would have given Vikings an edge in battle, allowing them to be faster and more agile than their opponents. There are historical reports from other cultures about shamans and warriors using hallucinogenic substances to predict movements in battle, almost like enhanced intuition. It's possible that the psilocybin mushrooms helped the Vikings tap into a state of mind that allowed for greater awareness of the present moment, sensing not only their opponent's moves, but also the shifts in the battlefield itself. This mental clarity might explain some of the famed Viking ferocity in combat, where warriors appeared almost invincible and unpredictable. Warriors' state of mind, fearlessness and focus. In addition to vision and reaction speed, psilocybin may have also induced a deep sense of fearlessness. We see this phenomenon in other cultures, where hallucinogens or psychoactive substances were used before battle, creating a state where the warriors felt invincible impervious to injury or death. This state could have helped Vikings overcome the fear of battle and move forward with an almost trance-like focus. As berserkers, elite Viking warriors known for their uncontrollable rage in battle were often thought to have entered into a rage-fueled trance. It's plausible that psilocybin mushrooms contributed to this state of wild, unrelenting aggression. They might have felt a deep connection to the spiritual world during battle, believing they were empowered by the gods to take on any enemy and come out victorious. Shamanic rituals and battle preparation. The Viking belief system intertwined with the use of these mushrooms in shamanic rituals. Shamans, or vulvas, would likely be the ones administering the mushrooms before battle, guiding the warriors into a state of heightened awareness. Sacred rituals, chanting, and offerings to the gods might have accompanied the ingestion of the mushrooms, setting the psychological stage for the intense experience ahead. These rituals were not just about the mushrooms themselves, but the deep spiritual connection the Vikings believed they could gain through them. But it wasn't just for warriors. Shamans and healers, or seers, might have used these mushrooms to conduct rituals to foresee future events or commune with the divine. These rituals would have been seen as a way of seeking guidance from the gods, as the Vikings had a strong belief in fate and destiny. There are also stories of Odin, the chief of the gods, seeking wisdom through hallucinogenic visions, which could have involved the consumption of sacred mushrooms. But did the Vikings cultivate mushrooms, or did they forage for them? What was the process of storing these mystical fungi? And were there any restrictions on who could use them? The Vikings didn't cultivate mushrooms in the way we think of modern agriculture, but they were adept at foraging. They would harvest the mushrooms during their natural growing seasons and likely had ways of preserving them for future use. Mushrooms, especially dried, can last for months, making them a useful item to store during the off-season. It's possible that they dried mushrooms over the winter, or even stored them in honey to preserve their potency. The Vikings, with their deep understanding of the natural world, would have also used herbs to accompany the mushrooms, which might have had medicinal properties to counteract any potential negative effects. Who used them? Though the primary users were likely the warriors and shamans, it's not clear whether the Vikings restricted mushroom consumption to only certain classes. It's possible that members of the community, especially those involved in spiritual or healing practices, might have used them as well. Today, we look back at the Vikings and their use of mushrooms with a sense of fascination. Their relationship with the natural world was profound, and they used psilocybin mushrooms to tap into something beyond the physical world. While we may never know the full extent of their knowledge or the specific rituals they practiced, it's clear that mushrooms were more than just a way to alter the mind. They were a tool for connection, clarity, and communion with the divine. As we uncover more about the Vikings and their use of nature's gifts, one thing remains clear. The Vikings weren't just brutal warriors. They were spiritual seekers, using every tool at their disposal to understand and connect with the world around them. So next time you think about the Vikings, remember they were much more than conquerors. They were seekers of wisdom, exploring not only the world, but the very edges of the human mind. If you're fascinated by this ancient culture and its fascinating practices, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. What do you think? Did the Vikings truly use mushrooms to enhance their battle strategies? Or is this just a legend passed down through time? Let's continue to explore the fascinating world of the Vikings together. Be sure to subscribe and dive deeper into more historical marvels that continue to inspire us today. Don't forget to like this video if you learned something new about the Vikings, and let me know in the comments. Which Viking innovation do you think had the greatest impact? Join us on this journey through time, where we uncover history's most fascinating secrets, one story at a time.